Hi everyone, this is my quiz review for quiz number 4, and I'm doing question 13, which says, which of the following will typically cut off an employer's vicarious liability for an employee's actions? Now, before I read the options, the possible answers, I'm going to explain what vicarious liability means, and I'm going to use our textbook in chapter 9 from pages 130 to 131, which basically give a straightforward answer of what vicarious liability means. And it says the term vicarious means the substitution of one person for another. The unreasonableness of one person is assigned to another person even though the latter did nothing wrong. Typically, the doctrine of vicarious liability arises when there is a special relationship between the person found liable and the wrongdoer. So basically meaning that someone who wasn't even around the situation or had anything to do with the situation could be liable. And I think this is why employee and employer fact patterns or situations are a perfect example to explain what vicarious liability means, because if a employer hires someone and they become their employee, and let's say, for example, this employer is AT&T or Comcast or something like that, and they've hired someone to be like their technician or whatever to go to customer houses and fix their cable or something like that. And one day an employee is driving the company car, they've clocked in, they're on their way to a customer's house to fix their cable or whatever the situation may be. Now, the employee is in the company's car. He's speeding down a residential street and hits a little blind lady who's crossing the street. Now, if the lady survives the incident, her lawyer would most likely advise her to go after the company, which may be AT&T or Comcast, in order to receive much more in damages than if she were to go after their employee, because the employer most likely would have some type of insurance to cover the situation to settle it out of court, and the employee doesn't. Now, the employer would be liable for the situation because it's the employer's employee who was driving the company's car. Now, we have the employee was performing the employer's non-delegable duties when the tort occurred. This question is wrong. Well, this answer is wrong because this would still make the employer liable for whatever situation the employee may have gotten into or may have done, because the employer has advised the employee to do something that's still related to their job. The second one is the employee was forced by construction to take a different delivery route when the tort occurred. Now, although this is a detour, it's still it's not something that the employee is doing for personal reasons. It's something that the employee has to deal with, because of course you can't just go through construction. You're not the Hulk. You're a regular person, so you have to adapt to what to your situations. So that still would have the employer liable for whatever situations may happen that the employee does. Now, the third option is the employee was running personal errands when the tort occurred. Running personal errands is considered frolicking and detour on Chapter 9 in the vicarious liability, which means the employee, as it states, the employee was running personal errands. The employee was not advised by the employer to do anything that's not business or related to their job duties. So if the employee, for example, is like maybe has an appointment to go to a customer's house to fix their cable, and the appointment is set for 2:30, but they have maybe like 25 minutes before they have to be there, and that employee decides to go to the gas station and maybe get candy or snacks or something like that, and on the way to running this personal errand, they run somebody over, or they just like run into someone's car. That would cut off the employer's vicarious liability. That would not make the employer liable for whatever situation may have occurred, because the employee was doing something in their own personal interest and not in the interest of their employer or their job duties. Now, the last one, the employee's malfeasance was an intentional tort. That would still that would still hold the employer liable for whatever situation they are doing. So that is why I chose the employee was running personal errands when the tort occurred. Because if the employee is running personal errands while on the job, even though they're on the job, they're still doing something that's in the interest of themselves. So they're not doing anything that's related to their job duties. They're not doing anything that has been advised by the employer, whether it's written or verbal. They're doing something on company's time. So if they get into a car accident or hit a little old blind lady or something like that, they would be solely responsible for that, because they were doing something that they weren't told to do, and something that had nothing to do with their job or getting to a customer's residence. So that is why I chose the employee was running personal errands when the tort occurred. And that is the end of my quiz review. Thank you.